He shows me, he says, Eric, draw the symbol in the auto parts lot, in the middle of the auto parts lot. And I say, okay. And he draws it with me. He says, make it big. So we make it big. And then we draw a line, and we go underneath a car, and he has me draw the Illuminati symbol, or the, on the dollar bill, the eye symbol. Starts having me draw the eye symbol. And I didn't know anything as far as any of what that symbol meant at the time. The most I knew about it is that it was on the $1 bill. That's it. That's the only place I could reference it from. That's the only understanding that I had with it at the time of this. So God has me do that throughout the whole day, where we're going through, we're crawling, and we're pushing it, we're crawling, and we're crawling underneath these cars, and we're putting these eyeball symbols, and we're connecting them to the cross symbol. And God was showing me children being sacrificed, and their remains scattered throughout the auto parts lot, and just horrible stuff what these kids go through. We talk about just horrible stuff, and man, the type of graphic stuff that he showed me, I probably can't even really say on YouTube, because it'd probably get, it'd probably have to be mature content or something, man. What's interesting too, and I don't know what to make sense of this too, is that God was showing me the remains of these victims, these child victims. And while I was underneath a car, God was showing me a girl getting murdered, and showing me her remains were there. The spirit of that girl comes up from underneath the ground, and my hand was right here, and it just starts, just like a thank you, like a thank you for doing this. And I feel it. I physically feel it. Like the only way I can understand it, or I can reference it, is like it feels like a magnetic field, like energy, but like a magnetic field. But you could feel it. You could physically feel her spirit touching you, and saying like a thank you. And I don't know what to think of that, right? I don't know what to think of that. I don't know what to think of that. So, as I'm going through the ground, God's showing me pieces of child remains, and one of those pieces, I see a vision. I'll show it to you as best as I can. So out of the peripheral vision, so think of it, out of my point of view, I see a hand coming out, woo, and actually pointing like a hand, like woo, coming out, like a white hand, and it traced, and it points at the ground, and I'm like, there's nothing there, and it puts me in vision mode, and it says that, it shows a little, like a little fingernail, and it says pick it up. And you wouldn't be able to see it, because it's like that, that far underneath the dirt, and it blends in, with the dirt, because the dirt is loose. You wouldn't be able to see any of this, guys, and you wouldn't know it was there. You wouldn't know it. So I pick it up, and as I pick it up, it is a pulled out from the core fingernail, and it even had blood all over it. It was all dried up, and dried up blood, and yellow from being out there for so long. And it shows, as I'm holding it, God then shows a vision of a man holding on to a girl, and taking pliers to the girl's finger, like, you know, like a thumb. I can't remember which finger, if it was an index finger or thumb, but grabs her, I want to say index, grabs her finger with the pliers and just pulls it all the way out. And God says, that's what I have right there. God then just starts showing me and having me understand that these Satanists, what they do is that through their rituals is that they grind up children with blood sacrifice and stuff, and they take the child remains and little pieces of it, and they spread it over places that they want demonic protection for their rituals, so that the fallen angels and the demons come in and they protect that area, so they can keep doing business of child sacrifice, or, you know, child torture, or whatever evil, diabolical thing that they're wanting to do. But they physically, you know, they call on these spirits for protection, and it's real, guys. This stuff is real. This stuff is real. You know, people around the world, they know that this stuff exists. You know, over in Colombia, over in Africa, you know, Thailand. You know, this stuff. They understand that this stuff exists, but here in America, we're so, I don't know, conditioned to not think that this stuff is real, and that people would do this stuff. But it's very big, guys. It's very big, and it's very secret. And whether you believe it or not, there's a spell cast on you so that you want to look the other way. Because yeah, I've told many churches about this stuff, and here in Yuma, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. This stuff is too real for them. This stuff is too scary for them. And this is the battle that Jesus is calling his people, his kingdom, to rise up against, to get these kids out, to take on the battle against these Satanists, these Luciferians. That's what God's going to be calling us. God is calling us to do it. He doesn't want us to sit by anymore, guys. And He's gonna equip us supernaturally to bring power. And that's what's happening. And that's what the two witnesses is coming for. So, man, guys, get ready. Get ready, because you're gonna see in the years to come a city of supernatural Jesus people, and they're going to be in power, and they're going to, you know, when the beast rises, when we start reading out of Revelations, when the beast rises, he's going to wage war against the two witnesses, and it's going to be like a Marvel, you know, it's going to be like a Marvel battle, guys, a supernatural battle. You're going to see fireballs and plagues and parting of the sea. You're going to see that stuff, because that stuff is real, even though we don't want to believe it. And you're going to see that stuff. And what's been happening, how God has been interacting with me and having me train, we're doing some of that stuff. We're doing the foundations of that stuff. And because guys, it's real, and it's here. And the war to wage against the Luciferian order, the Illuminati, is here. And God's going to have us train. And He wants His people to rise up to go against Him. Okay, where was I? So, yeah, these Luciferians, they grind up these kids. These Satanists, they grind up these kids, and they're spreading them all over the auto parts lot. So then, God was showing me that, and He was actually having me pick up these child remains and putting them in my pocket so we can, you know, take them to law enforcement, do something with them, right? So He has me go over to the cars, and there's a whole bunch of like junkyard cars there, And he said, he's, showing me in the spirit, put your hand there, touch it. And so I touch it. And as I'm touching it, he's showing me visions of, this one hurt. So it showed a girl, like strapped up, like hanging from straps. And it showed that a man turned on a motorhead and had the girl sit on it. And the motorhead ate up her insides and killed the girl. And he said, this is the motorhead that did it. That physical motorhead, what God was showing, was used as a torture device to kill this young lady wherever she is. If it was back in the 70s or 80s, who knows where it was, but what it was referencing is that it was there kind of like stored as like a trophy. Anyway, so God says, Eric, touch it. And I'm like, I'm gonna touch it, man. If there's blood on it or it killed the girl, man. I don't want to touch it. And he says, touch it, Eric. So he has me put my hand on it. And as I put my hand on it, it starts turning everything into gold again, which it's referencing the Holy Spirit power, such as referencing the kid that came up running to my leg, right? So the Holy Spirit power, the anointment, is gold. It was what God was giving to him. So he has me go over to the other cars. He starts showing me these cars were used as kidnapping device. They kidnap people with these cars, and they stored them there. So he's showing me kid after kid, and at this time I'm dehydrated. You know what I mean? Because God told me to no drinking the water, right? And it was maybe September, maybe October, maybe 7 years. This month, 7 years ago, maybe it was around this time. It was around that time. He then showing me all these kids getting abducted by with these vehicles. As he has me put my hand on it, he keeps showing me child after child, and I just start losing it. And I start going frantic, and I'm just like, I'm frustrated. So I take something, and I just start scratching in crosses all over it for each kid. For each kid I saw, I just start scratching in crosses. He has me go to the next car, and God didn't tell me to scratch up the cars. I did it because I was frustrated. And go over to the other vehicle, and same thing. And I just start etching in crosses again. Go to the other vehicle, start etching in crosses again. Each one for the child that was abducted. One was more than the other. I remember that much. Then I say, okay, Lord, I think I'm done. I'm done with this. And the Spirit of Jesus comes down, right? And says, nope, we're not done yet. Go underneath the fence. So you'll see it from Google Maps, the auto parts lot. There's a fence on like a double fence on the inside of the property. So 2 parts on the inside. So I go underneath the fence, and he says, crawl. So I start crawling, and he says, put your head down. And I say, okay. So I'm there, I'm like, oh, okay. Ooh. And as I'm there, and I start hearing tap, 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 tap. And there was almost like an echo to it. And I'm like, oh man, I must be dehydrated. I'm hearing stuff now. And as I look up, I see a German Shepherd, a big old German Shepherd, just walking right past me. And I look at that, and I put my head right back down. I'm like, my head's gonna get bit off. You know, that's the first thing. I mean, it's a junkyard dog. My head was going to get bit off. That's what I was thinking, man. And I put my head back up and I look to see where the dog's at. And I see a fingerprint on the dog's nose, holding them back. And I look at that and I'm like, oh, put my head back down. And then God's hand comes down and goes, you know, right here. I got you, Eric. You're okay. And I'm like, oh, okay, man. So I put my head back down. God shows me some other stuff. There was a carry like a small horse trailer in the back over there. I don't know if it's still there, but during the time it was a white, beaten down horse trailer, and that horse trailer was connected to a girl being killed, and she's waving at me, like once again saying like thank you. And I saw her again later, you know, when all this ended, later, and she said she was waving goodbye. Once again, I don't know what to think of that, of the spirits of the dead actually coming out saying thank you, you know, saying thank you for taking on the mission that God has for you, which, you know, I can kind of understand now, but I don't know what to think of it as far as biblically, you know what I mean? Because I know the dead can speak to the living, because you know, the Saul was going around killing off or caging up and outlawing people who would use divination to talk to the dead, because God didn't want you to talk to the dead, because you go to Him, you don't go to the dead for advice, things like that. But I wasn't talking to the dead for advice. They were just saying hi and thank you type of thing. That they were murdered in this and you know, things like that. Anyways, but so through that biblical reference, the dead can speak to the living. So that is a real thing. So yeah. So like I said, I don't know what to think about it, but the spirits of these murdered victims on the auto parts lot, you know, a couple of them would come to me and say thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this, which is, it's kind of cool, but you know, it makes it more personal. You know, makes it a lot more personal. Anyway, so the junkyard dog ends up going up to the front line of the fence and just lays down like I'm not even there. And I said, Lord, can I go now? And he's like, yeah, you can go now. Go get your water. And but he says, you crawl. You don't stand up. You crawl. And so I'm like, oh man, okay, crawling. So I got a little ego, and I'm like, you know what? This is cool. You got me protected. I probably can just walk out of here and be fine. And as I get up, you know, I'm like halfway up. The dog gets up. And then I'm like, okay, I need to crawl. So I start crawling again. Get underneath the fence. Get over the fence again. Get my water. Get all my bloody mattresses. Got my utensils. Got the body parts of missing children. And we end up, God says, go down to the train tracks. So the Union Pacific train line. Oh, and also, before we go to the train tracks, you need to know that God showed an entrance there at Sigler's, the Sigler's warehouse. It's right on the other side of the auto parts lot. There's a bunch of pallets there. God showed a physical, like a sewer, but showed physically that girls were coming up from that location and gone over to the right across the street over to Platinum Cabaret, where they were practiced on and sold on the train line. And God showed them as they were roped up. You know what I mean? They were roped up, had rope and chains on them. And me being Mr. Literal, I'm like, so they physically was, walking across the street in the middle of the night or broad daylight in chains to the auto parts, to Platinum for everyone to see. That doesn't make sense. See, God was showing symbolism, but me being Mr. Literal. So, trial and error, man. Anyways, but God showed there is a tunnel or a manhole or some type of hole underneath those pallets right across the fence of the auto parts lot on Sigler's property. And on that hole, it goes down into an underground tunnel system where it goes down to this underground torture city, this torture place where these kids are tortured. So the girls were coming from that facility, in the vision, the girls were coming from that underground facility where they were tortured. They were tortured and conditioned to be sex slaves. That's what they were. They were to be sex slaves. And they would go over to Platinum Cabaret to be tested on. God was showing me this in visions, and it wasn't connecting the dots, all the way, because I was just so, there was so much to process, and so nothing was connecting just yet. So we go down to the train tracks, and as I'm going down, God then, I'm asking God, hey, I don't think I should be down here. But he ends up doing something like, you go this way. And he does like a, woo, 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 that way, go that way. He makes it kind of fun, makes it fun. Go that way, Eric. And so I go that way. And I come to the office there at that Union Pacific train line. God says, see that box right there, and it's an electric box. There's a key there. He says, grab that key, and it's to a power box, an outside power box. So I take that key, and he says, tap the window, and he shows me kids being trafficked, kids being held captive, and he says, tap on the window, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go to jail. And so I tap on the window, and no one was there. And he says, bless it. So in visions, I'll see it in visions of this symbol, and you actually outline it with visions. So how it's the rock. God shows it as the rock, and it actually you can feel it. You can physically feel it. Other people can feel it too, even though it's kind of hard to explain. But in vision mode, you can physically feel it, and that rock does the outline of the cross. And he says, do that. Hold the key and pray over it. So I was holding the key, doing this, having my vision, and it was trailing off my hand, and outlining to do the cross format over that office building. And then he says, draw the cross, etch it into the on the floor there. And so I do, but I get a little carried away. And he says, use the key. It's a little carried away. And then gets a little carried away, and then I did too many crosses, and he corrects me. He says only do one cross. So do that. And then as I'm leaving, we go to the silos there, and you can see the silos from the freeway when you're coming off the freeway, coming onto the freeway next to the McDonald's. It curves, and you can see those silos. He has me go in. He shows me kids in those silos, and he starts showing me kids scratching, trying to get out. And as I'm touching it, you can actually feel the indentions, and you can see the scratch marks of kids, of some, you know what I mean? God says it was kids, right? Me being, the doubting Thomas, I did see scratches. Scratches were there. But God showed children scratching. And they were trying to get out. So that's on the Union Pacific Railroad. That's the Union Pacific Railroad here in Yuma, in the silos. That's physical evidence, guys. I mean, I haven't been back there since 2017, but that is physical evidence. That's something, with everything all involved, that's something worth investigating, with everything involved once we get everything going, because there's physical supernatural power, of revelations coming true, witnesses, we'll get more into that, witnessing stuff that God showed me in Revelations. I mean, so this stuff is worth considering, investigating, to the very least, and it's powerful stuff. And just because you say visions, law enforcement, they throw you away. You know what I mean? They even if you brought evidence, they don't want to mess with it. And it makes sense now. God showing me how far this goes, and how the level of satanic and supernatural involvement is. But people, even if they see it, they're not going to be able to see it. They're under a spell, and they won't. And even if they see it, they won't want to deal with it. They'd rather just do something else, not worry about it. And so, anyways, so scratch marks in the silo. We go over to the in a line of sight from the silo. There's a building across the way, and I don't know what that building is, but God showed a crazy-eyed doctor. He showed a doctor there, with glasses. He looked like a white guy. I want to say 60s or 70s.